Hey, Shaka Bras, welcome to the fireside. As tattooers, we often find ourselves in a position where we need to make or feel the need to make an urgent decision. And it's a decision that might solve a short term problem, might put out the fire that's directly in front of you, but has negative consequences further down the line. Now, this happens a lot of times when we're pressured to finish drawings. It happens during the tattoo process, and it happens a lot with our client relationships through consultations, different things like that. I like to identify problems like this as either being urgent or important. In my experience, rarely do those two things cross. Urgent decisions usually are putting out a fire, solving a short term problem, but they're rarely important in the long run. Important decisions are almost never urgent. And this is the topic of discussion in today's episode. This is actually a recording from our most recent Mindset Monday conversation. Mindset Monday is one of our regular activities in the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club, where everyone in the club, all tattooers, jump onto a call and we brainstorm on common problems. Often it's a problem that someone in the club is having, and we kind of try to step back and frame the problem in different ways. I think it goes without saying that people who come together as a group for a common cause always enjoy more success than people who go it alone. And that's really the focus of what we do in the Inside Fireside Club, and it's the focus of these Mindset Mondays. As you're about to see and hear, we strip out all the ego in our club. We're really focused on helping each other, challenging each other. We're very honest with each other when it comes to our critiques of artwork, when it comes to our critiques of business practices and anything in between. We're all focused on becoming better tattooers, on leaving tattooing better than we found it. And I think this conversation will kind of illustrate that point to you. If you'd like to learn more about the Inside Fireside Club, I will leave a link in the description as well as a card somewhere on this page. Hope you enjoy the episode. So this is what I wanted to start with. And it's interesting. We were just on the drawing stream. Lyndon, who's on for the first time in a long time. Derek, I don't know if you and Lyndon have met. Lyndon was a big part of the group for probably the first year or so, 6 or 8 months at least, that we did this. And then he got, life happens, and he hasn't been around a lot. But he was on the drawing stream just a minute ago, and we were talking about some of the stuff that we talk about in these Mindset Mondays, where slow season comes around and you start to make decisions that maybe aren't always in the best kind of long-term interest for you. Things like offering half-day rates if you pay up front, or offering, like trying to bargain with your clients to get them in the door. And then how, while that might get you through, for some period of time, it's typically not a great move for the longevity of your career, because then you end up like with people waiting on sales. And we all know of folks who are waiting on like we all wait on, like I would never go to Dick Blick or Jerry's Artorama and pay full price for anything, or Michael's, Hobby Lobby.
Absolutely
Michael's,
not.
like, man, like there's no, in fact, with Michael's, if it's less than a 40% off coupon, there's no way I'm like taking the 30% off coupon, because I know there's a 40% off code somewhere, and so that that will come into, I think, some of the ideas that I wanted to kind of throw out tonight. But
there's a reason why Friday the 13th is always busy.
That's yeah for sure. So I always liked this. I always liked this quote: "We're kept from our goals not by obstacles, but by a clearer path to a lesser goal." I was trying to think of kind of how to start the discussion. And I don't know how far, I've got a lot of notes, but I don't know how far we might get into them, because I'd like to open it up for discussion kind of as we go. So if it goes in a different direction than what I'm thinking, that is fine with me. But, I was reading this, what is it? What's the book that, Man's Search for Meaning? I haven't read it in a long time, but this idea that traditional kind of psychology, it kind of thinks or goes by the belief that we are propelled forward by our past, by the way that we were raised, by decisions that we made when we were younger. And that's why you lay down on a couch and then answer, questions, or get hypnotized, and then people can tell you what's wrong with you and why. And then, but that book was the first one that I remember reading that posed the opposite end of that we are pulled forward by a potential future. We make decisions based on a potential future outcome more so than being pushed forward by past decisions, right? And so there's certainly people, I think there are probably people on both ends of that spectrum. My mom is a great example. I spent this past weekend with my mom, which I don't do a lot. But my mom has no future. Everything that ever happened good in her life happened in the past. And she hates herself for making decisions that she made 25 or 30 years ago. And there's absolutely nothing in the world for her to ever look forward to. And I don't know how to I've spent years trying to help her with that problem. And I know now that I can't. But so there are certainly people who are driven, like who every thought that goes through their mind every decision that they make is based and is like rooted in some past failure or something like that. But even people like that still do the next thing that they're going to do based on an outcome that they expect. If I get up and walk to the refrigerator because I'm out of sparkling water, I'm going to the refrigerator because of a future that I'm trying to whatever and make happen. I want a colder sparkling water. This one got warm on me. I want to go to get a cold one. So everything that I do is based on a kind of a future potential, I guess. And so where this leads back to where I started with this, like, discounting, waiting on Michael's coupons, discounting, is that while I think we're all driven by future potential, by like a future outcome that we're looking for, rarely is it a very long-term future outcome. It's typically tomorrow, next week. It's either a short-term kind of reward that we're looking at, or we're on fire duty. We're putting out fires. It's something that's happening tomorrow or the next day. And whenever we're making decisions based on the immediate future, and we have no real relationship or idea with our long-term future, because it's hard to think that far in advance, we end up in these types of situations like we were just talking about, on the drawing stream before this, with Lyndon, when he said, like, yeah, I offer, I'm offering, I might have had a negative impact on my relationship with my clients because I've offered some discounts, and now I'm afraid they're going to keep expecting discounts. And of course, that probably worked. We didn't get that far because you just jumped on the drawing stream before we came over here. I'd like for you to expand on it if you don't mind talking about it. But we didn't get that far into the discussion. But I would imagine that offering 50% off if you pay in advance probably sold some tattoos. Yeah. Oh, you might be muted. I think you're muted, Lyndon.
My bad. Technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I would honestly say it did damage, yes, but it also did help on a few things. And one of the things that I kind of had an idea of what I was hoping it was going to do was it was going to actually get some larger scale projects started.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I was actually able to get a few sleeves up and going. And at the time, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of like cohesive sleeves put together, so it was kind of an excuse for me to really get that ball rolling. But again, it came more out of like desperation than anything. I mean, whenever you have a family and you're the only breadwinner of the house, it just kind of makes it to where it's like, oh shit, bills are catching up, and what's called bookings slowed down and to pretty much a halt. I got to figure something out. So I had the idea of doing those, and the only good thing that really came out of it was the fact that I do have some sleeves that are in the process. But the bad that came out of it was more so the fact that I just had, these clients that were just constantly waiting for those deals, and my, and not helping the situation at all. I did sell quite a few of them, just because I found myself basically what had happened was I sold enough of them that the next month, it's like most of the tattoos that I was doing were already paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So then, towards the end of that month, I had to do it again just to basically cover the bills for the next month. So it was just kind of a cycle that like I felt like I wasn't going to be able to get out of. And
Yeah.
like I was saying before, I even got to a point where I was like, well, I mean, if people are booking based on it being like, half priced, maybe I should just drop my hourly rate and then go from there. But and I know that that's not the solution at all. I know it's just a matter of poor money management and whatnot earlier in the year that made it to where, slow season was just a lot harder. But it's just one of those things.
Hmm.
It was tough to deal with, and I still have, I know I still have people that are waiting for those deals, but I did make a post basically saying, "Hey, I'm done doing those. I'm not doing them anymore." The only deals that I have going on right now are basically for like portfolio pieces. And it's in styles that I'm not 100% comfortable with, but it's more so being like, hey, if you're willing to sit and kind of take the gamble on this, I'm willing to do it at a lower rate, but I'm
Yeah.
picking what I'm doing, and I think that was probably one of the worst parts about it too, was the fact that it's like I had a few of these tattoos that were, they were paid for and it was half price, and on top of that, it was like subject matter that I was just not into at all. So like the whole thing was just kind of like, man, this sucks. So, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think there's I think there's an important distinction to make between those two types of clients that you just talked about. And it's, one obviously was putting out an immediate fire. It was a very short-term decision to, or a short-term solution to lower a rate and, take a payment in advance. And then essentially I hate that thing as well, where you show up to do the tattoo and you realize that it was already paid for. I have a few people who they pay through Venmo, but they just every time they get a an extra $200, they pay it in so that by the time their appointment gets there, they've paid the day rate, or maybe they have
Yeah.
$150 left to pay, and you're like, oh man, I forgot that you did that. That sucks. But but the distinction to make, I think, is that there was a clearly defined kind of goal and purpose, a longer term goal for the portfolio pieces, because they're serving a completely different purpose. They are what you hope to be doing. They're a vision of what your future kind of self is. The future tattooer is, uh, and you're willing to discount a little bit to have the terms that you want, the scale that you want, the type of piece that you want, that you'll be proud to put into your portfolio, that will eventually double or maybe triple your rate in the long run, because it's what you envision, yourself doing at whatever point, kind of in the future. So I think that it's funny how they're so similar. You're discounting tattoos in both cases, but it's the purpose behind it that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and one change too that I added to doing the portfolio pieces, I'm no longer doing the payment in advance. It's still like a deposit and all that stuff, just because I don't like that feeling either.
Mhm.
Like you do the tattoo and it's already paid for, and I understand like the money's already been paid, but it's also like it's kind of a reward thing in a way too. You just worked your ass off on something all day, and it's like at the end that's like your part of it. So but yeah, as far as
Yeah.
that goes, I changed that as well because I started to notice that that was kind of digging into my I don't know, like my mentality towards the tattoo by any means, but I
Mhm.
just kind of felt myself not being as stoked on the tattoos because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's difficult to have the same level of energy, like we were saying in the drawing stream before. What if you're broke, it's real hard to focus on anything except for being broke. It's definitely hard to come up with new and creative solutions to problems that'll keep, to drawing problems that'll keep you engaged, especially on a project. I can look back at tattoos that I have started, big tattoos that I've started over my career, when I was juggling too many things, not focused on the project, needed to get it drawn, solved all of the drawing problems in the simplest way, in the way that I know that I can solve them without putting in a lot of effort. Was not curious, was not trying to do anything, like wasn't thinking about keeping myself engaged in the tattoo for the 60 hours that it was going to take to complete it. And then I paid the price for it for 60 hours. It's like, in the tattoo,
Hmm.
they end up fine. They're fine. The client likes them, and they look fine, but they aren't what I'm trying to do, at this point in my, and I'm constantly trying to, find a way to polish a turd from a design standpoint, like I'm trying to do fancy color, lighting tricks or whatever else I can because I didn't pay attention to some basic compositional things on the front end, or and then there's no way to there's no way to fix that. Uh, once you've kind of painted yourself into that corner. So it happens to everybody. And then outside of tattooing, we've had this issue with our rental business where we have a couple of tenants. We have a commercial building that has I don't know, maybe around 16 individual businesses inside of it. And they're all different sizes and all different types of businesses, but a couple of them pay huge chunks of rent, or one in particular pays all of their rent for the year by March every year. It's a it's a tax return kind of business. So by actually, this is March 1st, they've paid the entire year of 2024 already. And so I wouldn't pay attention to that. And we would get this huge cash infusion, and we would use it to, it'd say, oh man, we've got, a lot of reserves now. Let's go on and put that roof on that house that it needs, and let's do this. And we would use them like it was going to come in every month. Well, then of course, by August or September, you've spent all of that. You've essentially lost that rent for the rest of the year, but none of the rest of your expenses went down. The mortgages are still the same, the taxes are still the same, the insurance, all the other associated expenses with that property are the same. You just spent all of the rent by March, and so it can happen really easily to anyone. What we have started doing is taking all of that, putting in an interest. So we credit it, to the tenant, obviously, because they need to be able to access their tenant website or their ledger and show that they paid for the year. So we credit it all to them in our books, but we sweep all of it over to a holding account, like an interest-bearing account. And on the first of every month, we just sweep that month's rent out of it. So it still gets paid we just know for sure that it's paid on the first of every month. And it seems kind of silly to have to do it that way, but that's what we have to do to make sure that we don't spend it all on renovations or whatever else, whatever else houses
Hmm.
require. Anyone else on anything we've said so far? Derek, do you have anything to add on any of this stuff, any of this so far?
Yeah, I kind of add to all of it,
Yeah.
kind of jumped around a little bit here.
Yeah.
Lyndon, I think, I can relate with everything you're saying. Of course, I think all of us can to some degree. We all have an experience or two involved with everything being said here. I'm watching a lot too, Lyndon. A lot of people right now are kind of expiring their options
Hmm.
of before and getting client base in. So, they're doing things that they wouldn't have done before because they have to pay the rent, they have to feed their children, and that's it's a real thing. You know, at that point, you kind of feel like beggars can't be choosers. We gotta make the money. We gotta get it going. But in doing that, of course, you kind of feel like you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit, and that's common too. Everybody goes through it. But I also know that when things get really tough like this too, this is where innovation happens in so many people's careers. So that's the one thing that I really strive to help out other artists with right now is staying innovative in their ideas. And usually we'll make a choice out of something that seems like it has to happen today, and sometimes you just need to take a moment and really kind of plan that out, in a different way so that you're making the right choices for your client and for yourself, to feel good about the tattoos that you're doing, ultimately is what it comes down to too. It's part of what you value in being in this career. So when we make sacrifices along the way, sometimes it's kind of like a domino. It just kind of knocks over the other one, and it can do that in the wrong direction, but it doesn't mean everything's lost. It just gives you some recognition as to what you don't want to try the next time, and that's where innovation occurs. And I know there's so many great people on here that have done different things. We just don't always get to talk about the strategies involved with this. We don't always get to go and talk, to the person. Like, we got Mickey on the screen right now. Here's a gentleman who's got great strategies involved. Things get tight. We have a community that's here amongst us that can help that out. And maybe that's sometimes having a little forum of just talking about our vulnerabilities and being like, man, I'm just having a fucking hard time paying my rent right now. Do you guys have any ideas? We can incorporate other people into like our mix and, really help each other and carry a lot of weight. Cause, I'm sure we're all seeing this in social media, right? How many tattooers have you seen in the last week that have posted almost a desperation post looking for clients? I know I've seen 3 today. I actually screenshotted one today because it was so over the top, and I wanted to reach out to the guy and being like, and tell him that it's going to be okay. You're not alone, but you got to get creative in this. Your creativity is not just your art; it's also in how you market, because that's the whole package of tattooing. It's not just about the client in the chair; it's about getting the client in the chair. It's the salesmanship that goes along with it. It's the systems that you put into place. It's your psychology around all of it. It's just, if you don't, you end up into a losing situation, like so many, like Jake mentioned in the very beginning of this topic. Baby boomers, they're really good at this. The baby boomer generation, they lowered the bar for themselves for some reason down the road, and it never fucking rose it again. They got stuck in this 9 to 5 mindset, and then all of a sudden, like, retirement's supposed to bring some easy point of life, and that's not easy. It shouldn't be easy. Life shouldn't be easy. There's no growth there, and so they just get kind of stagnant. And and I know a lot of tattooers right now, we learn, as Jake was mentioning in the beginning of this conversation, we learn from how we were raised. We learn from our parents, and it's for us really ultimately to break that generational gap of bullshit, of just being complacent and okay with it, so. And I'm seeing a lot of tattooers honestly going down that road, and it's really it's a little painful to watch. And I think that we can be more supportive of each other, and we can come together in segments like this and be like, hey guys, give me some ideas.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you can see the desperation in people, and you can see it because you felt it before. And when you see a post where someone where someone feels desperate, it kind of hits you in your chest too, because you're like, oh man, I've been in that spot. I know, kind of what that feels like. There's a book that my coach Dan wrote with this other guy Ben Hardy, that called I've gotten where I despise the term 10x because it's so cliche these days, but it's called 10x is easier than 2x, but the basic concept is to even not even take it 2x. Let's just say if any of us wanted to brainstorm on ways to raise revenue by 10% in 2024 over 2023. There are countless ways to raise revenue by 10%. I mean, if we could all write down 25 ideas and probably not have the same 25 ideas. We could tattoo 7 days a week in the busy season. We could raise our rates by 5%. We could start selling aftercare and marking it up. We could start, you could start printing t-shirts or doing design on the side. Like 10%, let's say a tattooer is making $100,000 a year. And you need to add an extra $10,000, right? It's less than $1,000 a month that you need to add. There are so many ways to do that. The problem with that is when you multiply everything, you hit this, we've talked about the ceiling of complexity. You hit a ceiling of complexity so quickly because you exhaust your own ability, your own mental ability to do any one thing well. If you start thinking about how I can get 10% more this year, well, maybe we can start selling, this type of aftercare. Maybe I could add Sundays. I can start tattooing on Sundays. I can start doing walk-ins on this day. And the next thing you know, your main goal of being an awesome tattooer that does large scale custom, sleeves, is so far removed from the actions that you're taking. to raise that 10 extra percent. So the concept of 10x being easier than 2x, it's like, well, if I want to raise if I want to raise my revenues by, you know, we'll stick with 10%, by 10%, I can do a lot of things. I can keep doing almost everything that I'm currently doing and just do a little bit more of all of it. If I wanted to raise my revenues from $100,000 a year to $500,000 a year, there is almost nothing that I can get. Almost everything that I do today will keep me from being able to do that. In fact, all I can do is focus on the thing I do the very, very, very best, and then build everything else around that. That's the only way I could ever hope to get from $100,000 to $500,000 in revenues, or whatever the metric is. It doesn't even have to be dollars. Whatever the metric is, if you're looking at multiplying it by 10 or 20% versus multiplying it by 100 or 200 or 300%, what you find is that you can. What did Kurt say? I love some quote that Kurt had recently. I don't guess he's on. You can do. He said he told his kids, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. It's like you gotta decide what it is that you're gonna do, and that's this this thing that I was listening to, a podcast I was listening to, the concept being it was called the theory of constraints, and I forget, he told where it came from. It's not a new idea, but basically it is that it's the idea that you are the bottleneck whenever you're trying to do everything. You can only focus on tomorrow and next week and putting out the fire, and you hit that ceiling of complexity where it's like, man, I can't do any of this stuff. I just got to quit it all and go get a job. Like, there's just no way I can do all this. But whenever you are when you remove yourself as that bottleneck and you focus on the thing, and so one of the steps that they kind of identified, I'll type it up here. Step one of that, if you're trying to think about your future self and being a friend to your future self, like what do I envision in the future? It's difficult because you're trying to think about this entire life. But what they're suggesting in this theory of constraints is that you ask yourself, what is a specific long-term goal? And then maybe let's go through. So it doesn't have to be even tattoo related, but can anyone throw out one goal? We'll pick a timeline. In fact, no, whoever picks the goal, pick the timeline. But it can't be a next week goal. It has to be a long-term goal. If not, I've got one if you guys want me to go. Do you want to, Mickey, you got one?
How long of a term of a goal?
Let's say 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I mean, unless you have I'm not trying to get us anywhere. I'm just trying to throw, we're spitballing. So if you have one that's 2 or 3 years, we can go with that.
Oh, I have one for this year. I would like to interview everybody that's in this group today.
You like to interview everyone in the group?
Yeah, that's for my specific 10% of growth.
Okay.
Or a different project that I'm doing. How about that?
Okay. So you want to interview everyone in the group today. Do you want to expand on how that is going to, like, what?
Well,
what's the purpose?
So I'm in the same group as everybody else, right? Yeah, life is hard and business is slowing down. And how can you focus on reaching your goals and meeting your customer goals without cutting your own legs out from under you, right? So for me, part of it is like, one of the things that I've always heard that has held me back from other people I really respect is I just have too much going on. And instead of trying to neuter that, I think I'm going to lean into that and try to talk to more people about more topics, branch out a little bit more, widen my network, focus on people who, need help with other things that I've trained myself in, which may not come down to day-to-day tattooing, but might be helpful to people in other ways. And the more people I can reach and talk to and spitball ideas with, the more it helps on both sides.
Yeah. Helps you to kind of you can leverage the group to.
Well, I need to speak about my ideas to understand.
Yeah.
Hey, am I just thinking this thing, and when I say it out loud, it's totally bullshit? Or am I not doing it, but I know that I should be doing it? And
Right.
how many conversations do I have to figure this out for myself and for other people? Like, I would love to help. I mean, I kind of look at this for me personally. This is not my job. This is my lifestyle. I'm like always doing something related to tattooing, mostly making money in art, presenting myself as a professional, marketing, all the same stuff that we're all dealing with. And the more, I don't necessarily always have a chance to like spread that in my town or my day-to-day life. So the more I can talk to more people about that sort of stuff, obviously it's kind of an eyeballs for eyeballs thing, right? The more I can help people with their problems and the more I can get presented as somebody who knows that sort of thing. I really have no interest in teaching people about tattooing. I know some things about art. I know a whole lot of shit about computers and different programs that we need to use and things of that nature. And I think that like, sometimes sometimes it's worth it to figure out how to pull back some and not work so hard. I used to be when I was at my last walk-in shop, I was working really hard to make sure that I made $12.50 a week. I wanted to make X amount in a week, and I knew I needed $1,000 a week, so I'm going to make $12.50, and that way I'm getting $250 a day. I'm giving the boss $100 every day, and it took me. I mean, I was probably like 15 or 16 years in before I realized, hey, I can just do 4 half days a week at 600 and make double that. And now I'm kind of at the point where it's like, actually, if I just do 4 full days, I can make double of that. And so now the trick is, how do I get myself in front of the right people who appreciate what I have to share and how I want to create things? Otherwise, I'll just take whatever. Yeah, I can do it. If you're like, hey, I got a couple $100 to spend, you're going to spend $3 a minute. I'm not too good. Okay, I'll do it. But I want to really focus on getting in front of the right people. And depending on how you do the math, if I can maximize my own effectiveness, I can make on my own what the whole shop has been making in years previous, right? But I just have to maximize my own potential.
Yeah.
And not really focus on keeping everybody else happy, except for like the 100 clients I can serve in a year.
And just so I'm clear, you're not just talking about maximizing your own potential with a tattoo machine in your hand. You're with these conversations, you're thinking that there are probably other ways to generate revenue, to be useful to tattooers and
True.
generate revenue outside of
Actually just tattooing all the time, but also how to maximize revenue tattooing, right? So I'm exploring a lot of that stuff. Yeah, and of course, as I get into it, you guys are going to be the first people I'm asking or talking to about it.
Well, I'm down for the interview. Just we can just pick a day. Okay, yeah, I like that. Something kind of similar. Well, no, I don't want to go into mine at all. Anyone else have a long-term kind of a specific long-term goal?
I want to add to Mickey for a second here. Mickey, I'd definitely love to be interviewed by you. I think you're going down the right track right now. And I think it's a track that a lot of artists right now should be seeking and looking at. You don't have to get away from the tattoo industry to start bringing more value to your clients, and I think you're going down the right track. I was in your shoes 8 years ago and did the same thing. I don't tattoo anymore. I've been in this industry for 30 years, but I found a different track, and now I'm even recreating once again. I'm still working within the tattoo industry, working with my strengths and what I'm capable of doing and what I'm interested in, and keeping curious about certain things and just going down that road. But it's part of the process. I think it's part of the evolution that all of us need to kind of seek. If we continue to keep doing the same things that we were doing, year after year, there's not a lot of growth there. So you have to kind of keep that. I see you shaking your head there. This is the innovation.
No, I'm nodding. Yeah, I'm definitely nodding.
This is the innovation I'm talking about. guys, and this is what Mickey's got it right now. So it's just staying open to these different avenues of it, and setting goals. And honestly, when it comes to goal setting, like what Jake's talking about right now, get audacious as fuck about it. Make sure your goals are so audacious that maybe you can't even see it being done. Go big, and then you can start scaling down into what you can do to actually make those big goals happen. That's the trick. You want to hack any sort of thing that you want out of your life, whether it be financial independence or a successful tattoo career. You got to break it down to steps, but you got to go big. You want to go so huge that it can't, it almost seems impossible to get, because that'll start to create the patterns in you that'll get you towards that goal. So it's just like it's basically designing your compelling future is what it's doing. And that's what so many people miss out on, and especially tattooers. We just miss out on really designing that compelling future for ourselves that's going to take us to the next level. Because most tattooers that I talk to right now, especially in my generation, I'm in my 50s. Most tattooers I talk to in their 50s and stuff like that, they think they're never going to stop tattooing. They're just going to tattoo until they're dead. And it's just like, good luck carrying a machine in your hand when you're 100, buddy.
Sure.
So it is about getting outside the box right now, but you can still stay within your artistic realm and feed your creativity and feed, your passion and feed your values by just being innovative in those ideas. There's so much to be done in tattooing in the industry alone. Like you have, here's a simple here, just real quick, and I'll stop jabbering here. Yeah. But if you find something in the industry right now that can be changed and manufactured that can help all other tattooers, fucking go do it.
So on that note, can I share my real big idea with you guys?
I want to hear it.
Can I share my screen real quick? Is that possible?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me stop sharing.
All right. Can you see this? So this is an idea map for kind of like, it's like a website / school kind of thing, encompassing web services, a marketplace, seminars, painting, photography, extracurricular stuff like engraving, vinyl wrapping, body painting, epoxy coatings, murals.
Don't tell Gabe.
Yeah, well, I told actually Gabe and Jake at Paradise, and was kind of like gonna present this and then never did. But like, I mean, a lot of this is stuff that I could do, but a lot of this is stuff that we have so many people in the industry that could do it. And there's so many, or as far as like different classes, and it'd be so easy to like make a marketplace for all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And all these kind of like.
So you want to do sort of like a schoolism or a proco for tattoo?
Sort of, kind of like there's like a cube brush / CGMA kind of deal. I know that probably doesn't mean anything, but I have like this idea. I'm like, trying to work it out and also trying to tattoo.
Yeah. I don't, let me look up QBrush. I'm trying to visualize what it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've taken a class on QBrush. I took the Mark Brunet one on there. It was pretty dope.
They have so much dope stuff between there, and ArtStation really is the one that like would have like the biggest. But I also think that there's a lot of like, nobody really is doing classes with specific deadlines, on specific things. And some of my, from me taking classes in certain instances, I've had a lot of luck in just forcing myself to get to the deadlines. Otherwise, it always gets pushed. Anything without a deadline just never gets done. And that's kind of like the bane of my existence.
Right. Yeah. I think that's
well, it's funny you say that. It's I used you as an example. I was talking to SJ recently, actually. We were going back and forth about like how each other learn, or some subject that was really similar. And I used you as an example where like you take classes that are like, X amount of dollars, but you have to finish the course, or you have to finish by this time, or else there's you lose that money because you didn't do the thing, And Peter Hahn does this. If anybody's interested, anybody who's interested in illustrative style drawings could take Peter Hahn Styles class on his website, and he has a curriculum that you have to follow. It's week by week for 8 weeks, and you have to do the coursework by the end of that week, or some specific time, or else you get like I don't know if you get a penalty, but like they just move on without you.
Yeah,
There's
you
no
don't get
rewarding.
you don't really get a penalty, but what happens is like on top of the lesson for the week, you get 15, like that teacher reviews your work for 15 minutes. So
Right,
due date
yeah.
is Saturday at noon or whatever it happens to be for that class. So Saturday at 12:05, that guy gets on and starts spending 15 minutes on each thing that's in the inbox. And that's the last time they're coming back to it until next
Yeah.
time. Generally, they're usually pretty cool if you write them and you're like, hey, I couldn't get it in. Here it is. Then they'll do it. But if, every time they're grading assignments, they have to grade yours from last time, then yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And they're going to tell you, like, we're going to tell you what, based on what you turned in. You're not going to turn this in and be like, well, I know this and I did that and I know the other thing. Otherwise, what's the point?
It's funny how in kind of online education, the way that we learn now, where you can audit a class, or there's all, or even this, for example, where you don't make Mindset Monday, it's cool, we're recording it, you can watch it on your own time, and of course there are no assignments tied to this, but the concept that we're talking about is essentially what we did from elementary school through high school. You turn in the work whenever it's due, and you get the feedback from the instructor, from the teacher. If you don't turn it in, you get a 0 and you get no feedback. The main difference being we had no real respect for the teachers or their opinions. They weren't Peter Hahn or whoever you're looking up to and hoping to get feedback on. But essentially the model is the exact same. It's like, you pay, if you're in a private school, you're paying for the school. Your parents are, I guess, but or if you're in college, you're paying for the school. You turn in the assignment, you turn it in on time and get feedback. You don't turn it in on time, you don't get a feedback or the grade.
And they move on. They move the fuck on without
just
you.
move on without you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that it's like, oh man, we should do it that way. Like, what a novel idea. Like, nah, it's actually the oldest.
There's a lot of sales courses that talk about that too, where they're like, the fact that you're giving people so many options means they're never going to get it done. If you're like, oh, I'm here for you to book whenever, they might not ever book. If you're like, hey, book me Wednesday at 4, they're going to be there. They'll probably take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this kind of makes its way.
Point.
Yeah. Makes its way back around to a little bit of what Lyndon was talking about earlier. You think about the difference in mindset from someone who says, hey, it's who did I just see the other day? One of the maybe Julian Siebert or something like that. It was like, hey, it's almost March, as everyone knows, as you guys probably know, the first 2 weeks of March is when I open my books for the year. And it's the only time that you're getting in. If you're not ready with your idea and deposit ready to go by March 1st, see you in 2025.
Right.
And so that you set that expectation, and I have no doubt that that's true. I'm sure that works just perfectly fine for him. I'm sure he books the entire year from March 1st through 15th.
I have a question.
Also a very good tattooer.
I have a little conundrum here then, or so like if Lyndon has already set up some sort of a situation for himself with these, discounts, quote unquote. So like, could he immediately go the opposite direction and say like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna set my books for 3 months or 4 months or whatever, and then like that's it. So like, should he wait to do that, or should he just do it immediately, like make the switch? And
what we're learning, Dan, you and I and Gabe, as we kind of test different things with Fireside, is you get this feeling that like you said a thing and everyone heard it, and if you were to do something different now, everyone would know. The fact is, 1/100th of the people who follow Lyndon actually saw that, and then half of those people forgot that they saw it. And you can say something completely different today, and they've seen 600 posts since then, they don't remember. So yeah, probably. And what's yeah. So say it again.
Archive it.
Yeah, archive it. Yeah, get rid of ditch it. Ditch it, pretend it never happened, move on. I mean, nobody will remember. But so Mickey, the long-term goal though, so you do have a specific action item interviewing everyone in the group, but as we talk, the long-term goal is actually much larger and even more specific. I mean, there's an outcome that we had to continue to peel away to get to, that's a lot bigger than interviewing a group of people.
Right. It's just not fully baked yet.
Yeah. I so one of the reasons that there's this group and that we're doing these this deep dive stuff with the Fireside website, archiving all of our old content, and also why I've jumped in to partner on the Paradise Tattoo Gathering the last few years and offering to help with this Memphis convention that's coming in, isn't because I have any interest in doing all of those things. I'm sitting here talking about how, like Kurt was saying, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, or you can be anything, but you can't be everything. My specific long-term goal is that I realize that I'm a lot closer to the end of my tattoo career than the beginning. I have told myself for years that I'm done on my 50th birthday and I'm 48, but I don't want to be. I don't want to remove myself from the tattoo industry. I want to be useful to tattooing. My long-term goal is to figure out how to be useful to tattooing. Now, is my long-term goal to spend every Monday talking about mindset stuff, or to be a promoter of a tattoo show, or to run a website and sell sponsorships to ink companies to put their logo on my blog page or whatever? No, it's none of those things. It might be some combination of those things, but what it is an exploration that I'm purposeful about. And I'm meandering a lot, and we're fumbling a lot, and we're losing money month over month. But none of that would make sense if I didn't have the clear goal that when I'm 55, I'm probably not going to be doing tattoos 3 or 4 days a week, but I do want to be a part of the conversation. I do still want to be a contributor. I'd like for that to be happening when I'm 75, or as long as I feel like that I have something useful to give. But what I don't know is exactly what that is, and so I think that's similar to what you're doing right there, like interviewing everyone in the group. Like, well, do you want to be an interviewer? No, probably not. I'm just trying to probe and see how we get from this abstract idea I have to something a little more, concrete.
Right. That's exactly it. And the speech that I always give is that, I feel like tattooing found me broke, naked, and alone. And, I'm this far in, I would really love to bring something back in. And I'm constantly searching for what's the next thing that I can do out here and bring in. And, if you say something to me, if we learn about something in one of these groups within a week, I've done so much research and so many trying different products and so much different things that there's, I should just monetize that part of my life. You know what I mean? And put that out to everybody else that it can help, instead of trying to figure it out in a garage and then never talking to anybody about it. At least I have so much stuff that's a failure, but would probably be interesting to watch that. I have to figure out what I can bring back into tattooing. Anyway, long story short.
Can I share on this one, since we're all being vulnerable here and talking about our futures? I'm currently doing the same thing. I'm at that impact and legacy stage of the tattoo career. I'm in my 50s. I got 30 years into this industry. I don't tattoo anymore. I own a tattoo supply company. I have a consulting company on the side that I'm launching this year. I'm doing the same things right now. It's all about how many I'm in the mindset of how many tattoo artists can I help before I'm done. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance and can grow to the level past poverty in the tattoo industry, because my main mission right now is to eradicate tattoo career poverty. And I'm seeing it over and over again. It's just this tattoo rich cash in the pocket in a roll isn't serving anybody. And it won't continue to serve either. So that's where I'm at right now. So Mickey, I'd love to have a interview with you as well. I'm launching a new company right now called Tattoo Career Builders. It's based on the business end of things. It's not about the art, but it is about being creative in your business. It's about the structure. It's about the systems. It's about your finance. It's about your psychology, because it's about 80% of your gig anyways. and 20% of that is just a skill set behind it. So, that's where we're at right now. Jake knows a little bit about this. Gabe knows quite a bit about it. What's going on in the background right now. But there's a few influencers that you see out there. There's a Ryan Royce that we had on the talks here. He's definitely got a really good thing going on. There's Reese doing her marketing thing, and there's Matt Hodell, doing his thing. And there's a few out there, but it's like, education right now, Mickey, is really top and center right now. It's something that needs to be in our industry. It's in every other industry. Why is it not really in ours? And this is where the impact comes into play. So,
and I've always,
Mhm.
go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I've
please.
always been afraid of it because I feel like I'm just going and searching the things that I need on any given day and then learning about it. I don't want to just like regurgitate it. But then looking back over everything, I kind of look at that as like, when we do a painting or a tattoo, it's kind of like the end point of all the different shit that we've looked at over our lives and thought that, hey, this is cool. And, that's somehow going to feed in to like the answers that we come up with to solve the problems in this painting or whatever it is. And, at some point, it's kind of the same way about the educational part, right? Everybody's going to filter this down in a different way and present it in a little bit different way. And even two different people talking about the same subject, that's actually probably more valuable because you're learning two different people's approaches to solving the problem. And both of those people have whatever kind of influences, got them to that point. And so now I'm kind of, I would really like to lean into that.
Okay.
Because yeah, I feel like, everybody could present it a different way, even if it's all, even if we're all kind of self-taught or however that goes.
Yeah.
I would rather, bring new stuff in than regurgitate all the same old stuff.
I think you'll find your voice over time, after
Yeah.
you do regurgitate for a while. You kind of have to in the beginning, and it's like every book that you pick up right now is going to be relevant to whatever you're curious about and learning about. There's hundreds of other people that wrote the same damn book. It's just in their own words. They have their own experiences around it. And so it's beautiful because any kind of mastery at anything that you're trying to get into requires repetition over and over and over again. You got to hear this shit over and over and over again for you to really own it. Bring it
and comprehend it, understand it enough to put it through to see what it means to you through your own kind of lens. I've spent so many years doing strategic coach with all these traditional businesses, and all of these concepts and ideas that they throw at me, none of them are thinking about it from a standpoint of designing pictures, drawing pictures. Everything they say I can plug into drawing pictures. All of it. I mean, almost all of it. Not one other person in my group has ever drawn a picture, but it's like the concepts. I think that's how you end up kind of finding your voice. It's not that I think you are regurgitating things if you are trying to do all of the things and memorize the quote and use the quote to sound smart, and participate in a conversation. But it's that, like what we were just saying, defining your contextual purpose. What is this specific long-term goal for me? What do I bring to this thing? And then whenever you're focused on, when you know what that is, when that's clear, all the stuff that you read and gather and that it feels like you're regurgitating, you're not really regurgitating at all. You're actually presenting it to a brand new audience through a completely unique lens. That's not I am regurgitating quotes. I started the whole thing with a quote today, but I didn't intend the quote the way that Robert brought it. I'm not plugging it in probably the same way that he was plugging it in. And I think that's I say that I interrupted and say that because I think about that stuff a lot too. I always feel like I have nothing, like everything that I say is because I heard it. I have nothing unique to bring to the table. But then you look at all of the things that you say and the way that you're considering them, you're like, no one's really like put it together the way that I'm putting it together. And if it lands to someone else, that wouldn't have heard this stuff otherwise, I mean, how many tattooers are reading Man's Search for Meaning? Probably not that many. And if so, well, yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
Have we talked about that in here before?
I don't know. That's where one of the first quotes that I brought up, maybe you weren't on yet, what came from.
No, but bro, long story. Never mind. We won't deal with it in this class, but long story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
I've definitely read it a bunch, and I pass the book out. I pass that book out all the time.
Oh, okay. Awesome. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Can I read a book right now that I read a book a week right now? It's just my curiosity. I'm there. I don't just read books, I study books, and that's the difference. You know, you can regurgitate everything that you're seeing, hearing, listening to, reading, or you can go out and you can study the fucking book and take your own experiences and write about it. You know, so if you don't have this one, let me see, is it showing now?
Oh, The Obstacle is the Way. Yeah, Ryan.
Oh,
Yeah, great
Ryan
book.
Holiday is
Ryan
super
Holiday.
great. I
Yeah.
fucking love his books.
Yeah.
yeah, his stoicism is, yeah. I mean, he's
Stoic philosophy is my fucking jam, man.
cool.
He's great. I just heard of one that I wrote down today. I was going to pick up from the library. That is, I think, along the same lines of what we're talking about tonight. Of that you can be. Kurt, am I saying your thing right? You can be anything, but you can't be everything. The book is called "So Good They Can't Ignore You"
Oh,
by
I love
Cal.
that book.
Do you know it? Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't read it. It's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. I'm gonna get it from the library. Probably we're an hour or so in. Anyone else have anything on what want to jump in on what we've talked about so far?
West, you know, I had a thought in all these talks tonight, and I was wondering if we ever want to go into kind of a scenario with these Mindset Mondays where somebody who's got a pressing problem, you know, somebody who's got an issue that's going on in their career, that they just come out with it, and we can all just sit there and do our own. We don't need to be fucking certified coaches to make this, to coach people.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Absolutely. We can absolutely do that again if somebody's got an issue or somebody's got like some sort of a shop related problem. You know, Lyndon, it sort of started off with Lyndon's issue, you know, more recent pressing thing. And there's no reason why we can't, you know, touch back on to those types of subjects at all. I think that you know, day to day, if we just things that happen in shop with like client relations and relationships between tattooers, or you know, not just money stuff, but like you know, you're talking to the shop owner, or you are the shop owner. Any different, you know, scenario you can think of, it happens every day for somebody. So I don't see why we can't touch back on those subjects.
That's great. I mean, I think we all sit in our businesses at some point and we're baffled at the situation that we're in. And we're
Yeah.
like, fuck, I don't really know what to do right now. I wish I had a team like this right now to throw the ideas so I could hear multiple things, you know. So yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I'm down for that. I think that'd be great to kind of incorporate the two.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm definitely down for it. Sometimes with these nights, it's a little tricky because you don't know who's gonna, you know, it would take a little forethought and planning to say like, hey, who's gonna present their problem for this Monday, so we don't end up with no one having something to present that week. And I've run into that.
Yeah, but that's a bit. But it's weird that that's the bigger problem, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well,
If everybody had a problem to present, then we'd have tons of content. But when we get together and nobody's saying shit, then we're up a creek.
Yeah.
So just to push back on that a tiny bit, we could, you know, come up with a couple of ideas that are common, and then probably somebody will have something that branches off of that, you know. Because you know, any one of you guys has a problem in a shop that you've seen or you've experienced over the years that I'm sure you could, you know, dive deep on how to solve that problem every time, or how to solve that problem like 90% of the time at the very least. I know
You know,
Kurt talks about problem solving constantly. He's sort of the problem solving wizard, you know.
you know,
Yeah.
I spent so many years in my company feeling like and acting like I was the problem solver to fucking everything that came through my doors. You know, I played this role where I just micromanaged the fuck out of it and really was driving everybody else crazy and fucking killing myself slowly. And then once I was able to give that control away and sit down at a meeting with my entire crew and let them run the show, and all I did was present the problems that we were up against and let them create the answers, it was fucking night and day. all of a sudden they were coming up with ideas and concepts that I was floored by. I don't even like hosting meetings anymore. I just let them run it, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to come up with better ideas than my old ass will. So I just let them do their thing, and they own that shit. And so that's why I'm saying, we got, like, what do we have, 8 of us here right now? We got one problem out there, I guarantee, that you're stuck on, and that you're just like, I don't know what to do right now. And this other 7 of us have ideas that you didn't even think of, to make. So, like, why don't we should leverage this group as something that's going to be helping each other.
Yeah, and even that in itself could be a subject, is letting go. The problem of letting go is a topic. So maybe later in the month we could touch on that, how to, as a shop owner, just let go.
It's so funny you just say that, Dan, because somebody asked me today, what's the meaning of joy to you? And I go, that was my.
Just since we've been on the topic of like long-term goals, does anybody else have like a 2, 5, or 10-year goal? What are your long-term goals for yourself?
I think I've still got the same goal that I've had for a while now, and that's getting myself to a point where I have consistent projects versus pieces. Like sleeves, leg pieces, stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that I get kind of like sporadic booking versus consistent booking, which I feel like consistent booking is more derivative of like larger projects, and that's something that I want to work and kind of get towards. My good buddy Scott Prather, he said a while back, he was like, I don't need to tattoo 400 people a year. He was like, I just need a good 50 with big projects. So it's something that I kind of want to get towards, because I feel like if you get that consistent clientele, then you can kind of have a little bit more consistency on like what to expect for booking and finances, and not only that, but what to expect as far as like projects, so
yeah,
I would say that's my goal.
There's a concept that we've discussed a couple of times in this group that is from my coaching group. That's it's kind of based on the 80-20 principle, but we call it top 20/farm club. So you have there are they say that 80% of, or 20% of your clients cause 80% of your problems, and then 20% of your clients produce 80% of your revenues. Or there are lots of ways to implement the 80-20 rule, but basically the way that the exercise is identifying your maybe 20 best clients, or maybe you have 5 best clients, but if they're your regular clients, they let you, what are their commonalities? What are their characteristics? Do they give you a lot of freedom in the design process? Do they let you make it bigger if you need to make it bigger? Do they, I assume they don't micromanage. They're open to whatever your color palettes are. Maybe they always show up on time. Maybe they don't hassle you about the cost, whatever, whatever you decide. You visualize who your clients actually are, their actual names, and like, what is it that you like about them? Maybe it's that you just enjoy hanging out with them for 5 hours at a time. And there are other clients that fit almost all that criteria. They don't complain about the price. They don't complain about the design, but you don't like their personality, so maybe they don't make it into the top 20, but it's just that personality thing that makes the difference for you. But you identify those characteristics of your top 20 or top 3 or top 5, however many that you feel like are your ideal clients. And then you just start to try to figure out, it's like lookalike audiences whenever you're running ads on Instagram or something like that. And you're like, well, my farm club are the people that I'm farming, that I'm trying to encourage, who I believe are like these people, and I'm trying to encourage them to get tattooed. So my top 20, obviously I want to continue to serve them as best I can. And then my farm club is going to be the rest of the clients that I need to make up the rest of my year. And so to the point you just made, I don't need 400 people, I need 50 people. Well, if your rate's $2,500 a day, maybe you only need 10 big projects for the year. Well, that makes it a whole lot easier. And that's that kind of that moonshot kind of, you know, mentality where it's like, well, okay, what five, you know, like we started this conversation of 10x being easier than 2x. Like you can increase your revenues by a little bit by just tweaking a handful of things. But if you're trying to go from, you know, discounting tattoos by 40% if you pay in advance to $22,000 day rates, well, you have to change a whole lot about what you do to get from there to there. Like like you really have to dial into the handful of things that you do exceptionally well. And it's not necessarily an easy problem to solve, but there are few options. There are only a couple of things you can do to make that happen. And it's a fun exercise. It's just a fun thinking exercise. And actually, that's a great transition into
in that same boat.
Yeah.
So I feel like I haven't raised my rates in a few years, except for I've gone from really trying to push half days to really trying to push full days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do like, hey, only 10 remaining at this price.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also have made the aftercare, ordered some bags from China, put logos on a card that says, hey man, bring me a person that does a deposit on a sleeve and I'll give you $100 back or $200 in tattoo credit.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the aftercare, give them the t-shirt, put this $50 bag together for, you know, new clients doing sessions of 2 days or more, and price goes from 12 to 15 a day after the next 10.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So some kind of limited availability. And what I really want to do now, like I have always done the like, I'm the lead champion of you'll see your shit on the day when you get here at the exact time, not
right
15 minutes early, nothing. And now I'm really changing everything to where I'm like, hey, I want to reach out to people who need a little bit tighter service. And, you know, you come, I'm going to sit and draw for you for nothing. And, you know, we'll get somewhere. You'll see something. If you feel confident in me moving forward with this piece, you can pay your deposit, which is a half day, which is going to come off the last half a day of like touch-ups or whatever. And I'm going to give you this kit of stuff to bring to your first tattoo, and it's going to have a card in there that says bring some headphones and maybe a blanket and, you know, whatever else. We're going to order food for the day. It's going to make my price go up $60 a tattoo, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be charging an extra $240 a day. So, and I won't have to give that same thing out every time, you know. But also, it gives me a month. The way I'm baking it in is baking a month of design work, and I'm going to be in touch with you the whole time. Right. So we're going to share a Pinterest page. I'm going to go back and forth. When I start fucking around, I'm going to send you a message and a couple pictures. You're probably not going to know what I'm doing. You're not going to really be able to see it till the end. I'm going to retain creative control, but we're going to be in touch. And so we're booking this a month out, and then I have reminders for myself on like, hey, you got to work on this person's stuff and check in with them. And I get those reminders privately. And then, you know, hopefully am kind of like tackling the higher end of the clientele more directly than I have in the past.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, Mickey. That's exactly spot on of what so many tattooers right now could be doing. You know, and I think what I'm hearing from you is that you're refining your communication skills too with these clients, because you're looking for somebody who's better. And in order for that to happen, you want better in your chair, you have to get better or you'll never receive it. Just to think that you're going to go off of your old patterns to be able to bring in more people into your chair, it's not going to work.
It's that no, I definitely have to always like search for new things, and then I end up being the earliest of the early adopters, and then kind of flatline out, and then come back when it gets popular for whatever technology is out there.
But I'm sure, but you know yourself well enough that you'll understand the patterns that start to come up that take you out of that mode. So
that's such a great way to say it, because I would say I'm insecure enough that I'm constantly searching for, you know, I'm constantly feeling like I don't know enough. Like I'm constantly feeling the imposter syndrome. I'm constantly, hey, we got to out a little bit. Oh, all the time.
We all are.
You know, same as everybody, same as all of us, which is what gets so annoying as like an older artist where you're like, yeah, dude, me too. Everybody feels that way all the time. It sucks. Let's go. And that, I think that's kind of another thing that I would like to do in the next couple of years is a seminar that's like, hey man, you got to embrace the shitty parts too, because that's part of it. And learning from those challenges is what's going to make you better in so many different aspects of your life. Just instead of wallowing in, hey, everything sucks, go find yourself some solutions instead of identifying problems all the time. And life gets better, man. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the world today that, people tend to not take too much notice of because I guess they just like expect that. But I think that if you kind of embrace the parts that make you feel insecure, so you have to try harder and get better, like you get better with that effort. So whatever motivation you need for that effort, I always let it drive me. And I think that could be helpful to people.
Well, I mean, the courage that you get just is action, right? And you need action, you get courage out of it. You got courage, you got confidence, man. It's just like one breeds the other. Right now, when you were talking about your goals earlier, I think you should set yourself a new goal. Start doing some free seminars, man, in your area. Throw a free seminar out there and just talk about that thing. Just talk about the thing of what's paining everybody. Bring it to the table, and stuff like that. And you just hosting that will probably get you enough curiosity to go out there to make a great presentation happen. I'm sure Jake probably can relate with this more than anybody because he's doing podcasts all the time. I'm sure Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do a lot of practice and forward thinking before just hosting a podcast. You're putting time and effort into what you're doing, like you're speaking. And so to so many of us, like that want to go out there and make a change and make a difference in the industry and make a difference for our clients and everything else. It's like you're showing that you got to put the time in. You got to stay curious about it too. So, I think that Mickey, that's great, man. You're on it, man. I'm stoked. I can't wait to attend one of your seminars someday.
Well, thank you guys, man. I'm excited to grow with you.
Yeah. Same here. I completely agree. And that's a big part of it. You just mentioned curiosity, and I think that's it. Yeah. Like anytime I find myself stagnant, it's because I've started to assume that I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and I lose curiosity. I was going to show this graph real quick before we wrap up because it's kind of sums up a lot of what we've talked about here. And we've actually said this. I just like the visualization. We were talking about the 2x versus 10x. And so, like we said, like I was mentioned earlier, if you're trying to improve revenues by a percentage, measure, by 2 or even by 10% or anything in between, you can continue to do, 80% of the stuff you're doing right now and only 20% new. So you want to grow revenues by $15,000 next year, you can start to buy bulk, aftercare and sell it at your shop, or have trade someone that you tattoo that does screen printing, trade them half a day for 100 logo shirts and then sell the shirts at $30 a piece. Well, like there are all kinds of tricks you can pull to generate an extra $10,000-$15,000 a year. Obviously the problem with that is that you have no priorities. There's that great quote of the biggest mistake that we made in the English language is pluralizing the word priority, because by definition, there's no such thing as priorities. Priority means that it's the thing that you have to do next. And so whenever there's another quote, like if you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities, something like that. So whenever you can continue to put the same amount of effort in a dozen different directions, you hit that ceiling of complexity very quickly. Whereas if you're going to say, how am I getting from $100,000 a year to $1 million a year, really only the things that you do incredibly well, say 20% of what you do of your existing work, can you continue to do. Almost everything else has to be new. Well, it's like, well, shit, I don't want to have to do a lot of new stuff. But essentially what you're doing is you're simplifying in order to multiply. So you simplify down to what you do absolutely best, and then you multiply that output, which means, of course, it means, of course, there's a team probably involved, in that. You're probably not, whatever. You're probably not booking your own appointments, or maybe you're not scheduling your travel, maybe whatever it might be. But you you focus, you dial in down on the things that you are the most engaged in, the most interested in, the most curious about, where you bring the greatest value, and then you multiply that output rather than trying to multiply all of your outputs that you're kind of currently doing. I just thought, I mean, obviously it's a super simple little graphic, but I thought it was a useful one.
I'd like to just add for 1 second. The word team sounds like it should be like 7 to 15 people. It does
Yeah.
not have to be that big. A team can literally be you and 2 other people. So, like, just as a blanket, clear indication of a good team, Jake has me and Allie and Gabe, to do all of his other things that he needs done for the month, the year, whatever. Um, so it's not like if you don't have to have like a large team of people to get everything done. Maybe you just need a booking agent so that you could worry about whatever. Maybe you just need somebody who does social media so that you never have to think about it again, because everyone fucking hates social media. Nobody,
Yeah.
and they don't have to be, you don't have to have like a bunch of people on your team, whatever that is. You can just have like 2 other people or 1 other person to help you with one thing that you really just can't fucking stand doing, you know?
And you also don't have to have any money to pay the people. Now, eventually you might, but the one thing that I think about so much, a lot of people feel like, oh, man, I can't afford to pay anyone to do anything. This is all for nothing because I can't pay my own bills. I certainly can't hire a social media person, or I can't focus on this one thing. The great thing about being clear in your goals and being curious and being, kind of a problem solver, is you'll attract people who are also interested in that thing. I ran Fireside as a podcast from 2013 to probably 2020 with 2 guys that ran cameras, one of which also did editing. And for 7 of those years, I never wrote a single check because we all had a good time. We split one hotel room. I would tattoo a couple of days to pay for the hotel and the gas, and then we would podcast the whole 3rd day. The dude enjoyed, like the guy that did the editing wasn't a tattooer, but was real into tattoos and liked to edit and went to film school and had a job cleaning pools and was just like, man, I hate cleaning pools, but I love editing video. We just all shared a purpose. And so that became what Fireside is now. But I certainly couldn't have, when I had the idea of like, hey man, we should start a podcast. It wasn't like I can pay you $50 an edit, because I couldn't. There was no way. I just had to be clear in the outcome that I was looking for. I had to be clear in why I thought it was a cool idea. And then people who also thought it was a cool idea just showed up and did it with me, So that's I think that's one thing that people get confused on, or they want to opt out of like discussions like this early because they're like, man, I can't even get to the starting line there because I can't afford to pay even a virtual assistant from the Philippines. I don't even have the $3 for the Philippine assistant. It's like, man, just get clear on your goal. The people will show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I made mistakes before in hiring out, social media and hiring out other, avenues of things that aren't my strength. And I didn't really know how to hire or to relate the job that I needed. And I ended up wasting tens of thousands of dollars in doing it. So, in doing Jake's method of finding people that are interested and curious about it and want to just be involved with the mission, that's where it's at. Go with those guys first. But we could have a whole nother conversation just on, if you are going to be looking for other sources, what to ask. I think it's a conversation that's not out there enough. If like for a new accountant, a bookkeeper, an attorney, a new hire, even, how do we go about that? That's one thing that's not being discussed in the industry, is how to do those things, because most of us we fall short on it, and we don't really learn until we make major mistakes, and we go through quite a few people before we get there. And that fucking sucks because it costs a lot of money. So I don't know.
That'd be a great discussion. I agree.
Hey, thanks so much, as always, for supporting the Fireside Tattoo Network. I hope you got some value out of this episode. Again, if you have any interest in checking out the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club, I'll leave links in the video description. Have any questions, feel free to email us or go to firesidetattoo.com and just click on the little chat bubble down at the bottom and someone can help you out. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time.